Hello, good morning. The time is 6:43. Okay. And I woke up this morning with an interesting awareness. I've been noticing a certain pattern since some time. About six, around there. I call it as a spunk effect. Yeah. Like go off to sleep, kind of. Like I've been put off to sleep and kind of. And when I wake up, I don't know that I have been off. Yeah. Unconscious. Yeah. Ooh. It's a thing. And I've been noticing this pretty regularly every day. Yeah. Um, and I couldn't quite figure it out. I don't know if it is location specific. Okay. Is it location specific? Okay, it's not there. Yeah. So it's not there when I was in Aranagar. What was that here? And the reason for it is humanity cross boundaries, the different kinds of people in my neighborhood, and the different practices they are there, and their influence on my ways of being. So there are all kinds of practices, including what is not called as buteyko breathing or obsessive compulsive breathing, but it's a different kind. Okay, so you exhale more, like you exhale for so long, and then you inhale, and then you exhale for so long. Right. I don't think, I don't know if people have actually been studying the influence or the effect of it on other human beings. They may be benefited, but I don't think they're studying the influence of it on other human beings. Now, other human beings may or may not be affected because they may not be related. That's also there. Now, there are several related families, genetically related, epigenetically related, that influence would be there, but genetically related. And you don't know they are close family members. Genetically related, you don't even know where, how they are your extended family. Yeah. And um, there will be a certain human genomes. Yeah. So there are many family lines migrated from different places and they may be just staying close by as neighbors. And I think that's where the pull is more. When one is affected, the other is affected. And sometimes the difficulties is in the oldness of um, it's not stories, but it may seem like difficulties. So old families maybe have a certain heaviness that they have been also conditioned with maybe, or that they've been carrying since a long time, or um, there are thought lines which is not as much um, passed down through generations, or okay, maybe these are the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, because I'm in India. And there's a reason why they are given privileges in India from being the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe because they maintain certain ways of being living, which then sustains life through several generations, and this may be through across the globe. Yeah, because of um, it's kind of like, how do you say this? Foundation of a house, or let's just say um, ways of being and living, which then maintains how life needs to be maintained. So we are maintaining being human. Yeah. So there could be practices from there. And we are talking in terms of artificial intelligence, we are talking in terms of many kinds of business enterprises because there are several old, it's like a forest. Okay. And we have many kinds of trees. And those old trees maintain the wood wide network while new ones are growing up and showing up. Yeah. So life in different stages, in different spheres of influence, is also because there are old um, patterns, pathways, which then maintains sustainability, and then we can improve things from there. Why is this important? So this is kind of a little bit of the hard problem of consciousness. How does one affect qualia, and how does the um, phenomenon happen, and those kinds of thought lines. Yeah. So morning I notice something, evening I notice something, and this is there across when I'm traveling from one place to another. Different places have old families. Yeah. The genetic influences could be from many places and in many, many kinds of families and many, um, let's say, degrees of intensity. Yeah. Some are more strongly related, some are lightly related. And I'm under the influence. Yeah. Okay. So when you're aware, you kind of notice your bodily composition affected differently at different times, different places. And then we have light and then electronic gadgets and many other influences. The work you do and how whom you interact with, how you interact with. So that's also part of Bija Ganita, sort of. Yeah, math by seeds. No. Yeah. So when did the seeds form? When did the forest form? So how long? So there are several levels. And then we have our technologies on how life has been maintained. Yeah. So intangible world heritage in or encoded in the genetics. So that could be Egyptian, what have you, Greek and Phoenician and Sumerian and what have you, civilizations passed down over time through through genes in different places. And then India took float from Gondwana land, Madagascar, yeah, all of those places. And from there to become a subcontinent with Asia. So this the variety of what we are talking about is not small. Yeah. So when we are saying took float, what did India have then in the fabric of time space or earth, as in the crust, different layers? Um, after, say, there have been so many mass extinction events, but the seeds that sprouted at different times would also be in Earth's material. So India then took flow from there to here. So that's like seeds migrated or the whole landmass from there to here. And then genetic information from where, so where did life first start to existence? The microorganisms, yeah, seeds and plants and insects and variety of species and then showed up. But there is also earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space, when information has been encoded, and then an entire land mass formed from also earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space, with all kinds of information encoded, took float from Gondwana land to become the subcontinent with Asia. Yeah, that's like information, it's a whole lot of stuff. Yeah. And then India is showing different kinds of behavior and mannerisms, ways of living. We've also had the British and Portuguese and French and colonization and Solomon Isles, maybe another such example, where there's a lot of wealth, yeah, but also come from several. Where did the Solomon Isles come? Does Solomon Isles have similar history like India does? Took flow from one place and then rich with information and also encoded in earth, water, fire, spirit, space. And then, so in that sense, there is no point in being, what do you say, jealous or competitive or what do you say, comparative when your own landmass has formed over several cycles of, what do you say, um, Pangaya broke into, well, Gondwana land, or before then there were other masses. I've also heard of the civilization of Mu, Mu, as in music, muse. So there are these. Um, there's an entire. It's called a lost civilization, which probably had a mass extinction event, and then got broken into. then another landmass, and then Pangaya, and then Gondwana land, and then we have the continents as we know today. Yeah. And so there are tectonic plates under. For example, there's been called the Pacific tectonic plate, which is has been trying to then show up. I don't know which is the case. So it's like puzzle pieces. As you're putting them together, we begin to understand things better. So when we say hard problem of consciousness, why does phenomenon happen? This is one of the reasons. Now, given how things are and however things are have been showing up over time, we human beings have formed from these same elements: earth, water, fire, air, spirit, space, and are influenced by several factors, including from the environment, social media, the information we look at, or we listen to, see, hear, smell, taste, feel, know, and then how that influences us, the food we eat, and how that influences us. And are we aware or not? That also influences our health and how we maintain life and what activities we do. How profitable as a business we are could also be affected by who's influencing us in what ways. So, are we able to think clearly? And then, what can we do at a point in time? How then do we do anything when there are different kinds of influences? What then do we pay attention to? How then do we be aware such that we can be mindful and we can be appreciative of the present moment and continue to do, even if it is one step at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time, to then move in such a way that you, people around you, future generations, and their future generations also are doing better, would be doing healthier, wealthier, wiser. That is also what yoga is about. So, Nirbeeja Yoga is from a Samaya perspective, Srividya tradition, but I have not studied under a guru from the Srividya tradition, nor from somebody who has told me about the Samaya tradition, except that I have been facilitating health clinically and I have been maintaining my own health from practitioner neutral and from observing my own body's processes from a biodynamic perspective, biodynamic radiosacral therapy. And then from there, I've also trained in Aikido. So, where both these practices have nothing in common. Okay, nothing, as in Aikido also talks about nothing works. I also discovered nothing is the only thing that works. And then I discovered practitioner neutral is in a kind of like a state of nothing where you're not prescribing something, you're not dictating something to who's showing up in the clinical practice, you're not using things, but you're not, so you're working with the present. I, in my clinical practice, work with the present moment and whatever shows up in the present moment, and then I have my therapeutic skills and different layers of training. So it's a sophisticated blend of several therapeutic practices. And one thing that I arrived at is it's in the present moment. So if I'm going to fix and change and then come with preconceived notions, I'm putting something in the moment and then that shows up. Yeah, because I'm fixing the outcome. I'm making something that is not there. Yeah, or I'm not seeing what is there in the present moment because I have preconceived notions or how this should be or how things should go. Over time, I discovered that I like who I was who I'm being in the uh, clinical practice while being a therapist in the clinical setting. So I continued maintaining that practice outside the clinic. So that's how Nirbeeja Yoga formed. Okay. So I discovered improving nothing for the better. I found nothing, this practitioner neutral, is um, at the heart of everything, kind of. When I'm improving the present moment, yeah, life happens in the present moment. When I'm improving what's happening in the present moment, then future, what have you, different spheres of influence, opportunities, but it's about how you interact with what shows up because you are in the present moment. So I've made it a life practice of living in the present moment. Did you notice my voice just went off? That's from an influence in the environment. So being aware of there are influences and things like this happen, and I'm speaking about it because we are all human beings on the same planet, and we may be dealing with our own health, wealth, wisdom challenges and having a difficulty being in the present moment because we may be given by past versus future experiences or preconceived notions because it takes something to regularly, what do you say? I call it digesting sukha and dukkha, which may otherwise give rise to preconceived notions in the present moment. Your ability to be aware, mindful, and appreciative of the present moment gets affected when your body composition is layered with past based sukha and dukkha, and you're in disagreement with what happened in the past or what's happening in the present. You could be having preconceived notions, and your relationships in terms of also quantum mechanics, push pull, entanglement, what have you. When you don't know why they happen, how they happen, or how that affects your life, your different activities, it's science. It's a conglomerate science that I call conscience. Yeah. And as you're improving your conscience, okay, as you're practicing Nirbeeja Yoga, which also includes digesting Sukha and Dukkha, which is also formed from different everyday experiences, what became possible. I'm, for example, dealing with returning money to people from whom I've loaned because this is good business. Yeah, what I'm making available is not quite readily available from since a long time. So I have borrowed money to be able to then build courses and make content available. So I'm different stages of the dukkha of it or the sukha of it. Yeah, because you take loan because something is working and there is a guarantee of returning um, from whom you borrowed. Because this is what I've learned over several cycles, several years, that when you're doing the right things keep showing up. Over time, I came to the math of faith. Okay. And then there's this idea of the ninth Hanukkah candle. And there are all these spiritual connotations, apparently. But the math of it, and people are still looking at different kinds of math. There are set theories, there are conjectures, there are paradoxes, unsolved problems, hard problem of consciousness. People are still looking at particles and space and trying still to figure out how this all work. And they also saying we don't know about 99 plus about percentage of what the universe is made up of. So there is a lot we don't know about, and there is a lot that I'm talking about. And then there is this other video where I saw 99.9% we are all humans, and it's at 1% that we are actually seeing as a difference when we look at each other. So, and so I'm talking about a whole lot of stuff. So, returns on investment guaranteed. Well, great companies, they even gave me a certificate um, from their evaluations that my enterprise's brand is top brand to watch for in 2026. There are people listening to what I'm speaking about. So, in light of all of that, I do need to share this. Yeah. Mysticism, yoga, how we understand. Let's just, if we're going to keep all of this heavy stuff, a little, we will discuss them later or in course of time and look at what is possible at this moment in time. I'm speaking about the present moment. Even if we take off everything out, we are still having the present moment. Each of us, no matter where we are across the globe, we have the present moment. And how does the present moment look like is also time. Samaya is kind of translated as time. We look at in Indian languages, we call Samaya time. But if you look at it in Mais, Sa is also like um, Shajjam. Yeah. The basics, the Shajjam is that which gives rise to the six. Yeah. Shajja. that which gives rise to the six. So 7 notations. So because if you say sa as a first note, then re, ga, ma, pa. So that way 7 notes. And then you come back to the sixth. The eighth note is basically the sa again. Yeah. So the sa gives rise to the other six. Yeah. So this is like the originator, so to speak. And then there is the pancham. Okay. All right. That's one way to look at it, but there is several other details. We look at sa as also basics. Yeah. Hexagon is in a honeycomb, um, is a good, nice container, like optimum container, space in which honey can be contained. So nature found a way to find an optimum container in which effectively, efficiently, honey can be stored. Yeah. So that sense, that is the basics, hexagon. Yeah. Um, sh, sa, ma. Ma is also like mother. Yeah, one way to look at it. Versus pa as in father. Ma, pa. Okay. Ma as in mother. So shajam, if you look at it, from sa comes the saregamapa. Yeah, the musical notations. And so octaves. Ma is also mother, from where we are nurtured well enough to have a life. Sa, ma, and ya, that which arises from the basics, from having born with the love and care, um, well enough to have a life, and that which arises from that. So it's a different understanding of samaya. But there's also time. A heart beats at a particular pace. Lung expands, contracts at a particular pace. And these are different for each person. Muscles expand, contract at a particular pace. Now, this is not known because you think when you expand and contract your muscles is when they are expanding and contracting, which is also kind of true. Because there is the voluntary aspect and then there's the involuntary aspect. In an alive being, muscles breathe. In you eat meat. Yeah, it would be very funny if they start breathing. Yeah, or until they cook, are they breathing? Or until they decay and annihilate. Until then, they're breathing. Yeah, or they're in different stages of not breathing. Meat before you cook is in different stages of not breathing, going towards that. So the pace is reducing. Is one way to look at it. In an alive person, there's a certain being alive pace of muscles, of bones, of different body tissues, okay? Which has been called, let's just say, primary respiration or the breath of life. Okay? A fetus in the mother's womb would not be breathing, human fetus, the mother's womb, would not be breathing with the lungs. Now, I don't know about other young ones because I've not studied the anatomy physiology of them. So I'm talking in terms of humans. Humans in the mother's womb do not breathe by their lungs, while their lungs also breathe just like the other tissues, but not through the nose, which is a kind of respiration that's been called primary respiration or the breath of life. So it's a different kind of a breathing, which is why they are alive. A viable fetus breathes, it's their cellular respirations, physiological functions, but just not with that which is possible from lung breathing, which then kicks in once the fetus is born, once the baby is born, which is when the lungs start functioning. And then the physiology is affected by lung-based breathing, while the breath of life, primary respiration, continues. Yeah. And then there is voluntary and involuntary aspects. When the baby learns to control their muscles and can pick up something from the floor or can call out, let their needs known, they are in different stages of exercising their muscles. But when they are sleeping, they are not dead. When they are not moving their muscles, or when they are, say, their lung breathing is not so at such an active phase, like when they're running, when they're sleeping, they are still alive because the breath of life continues, the primary respiration continues. Nirbeeja Yoga speaks about a fine balance, a yoga between the primary respiration and the secondary respiration, the lung based respiration. Okay. So, this is also there in on table therapy practice, which I facilitate health on table therapy. Then there is off table, like I'm talking about it now. And it's also there. So, off table, this one, what I'm talking about as Nirbeeja Yoga, is not necessarily need to be spoken. Even when I'm silent, this yoga is there like 24/7. A human being has primary respiration and secondary respiration, whether or not I'm speaking about it. And then I'm calling out the obvious, or rather, not obvious, because we don't think in terms of this. We have yoga practices, okay? We have different kinds. There is on Google, there's a reference to 10 vayus, five vayus and five upavayus. Yeah. But let's just consider that they are categorizations. Like there is lungs, and then there is heart, and then there's intestines. Categorization. Human beings have lungs, heart, intestines, five vayus, five upavayus, 10 vayus. Yeah. Metabolic processes, let's just say. But I also found in the textbook that they are talking about 49 vayus. And then I found another reference where they're saying there are 49 gotras. That got me a little disconcerted because they're talking about vayus and then they're talking about gotras, which are like gurus across time and space who have been teaching stuff. And we're talking about vayus. So are we talking about 49 gurus in our own body maintaining life or the forces of life or how did the human body form? And we don't know about that. And we are, let's just say, puppet show kind of between this is good, this is not good, while there is the light and the dark. So there are light gurus and dark gurus. Yeah, metabolic processes. And there is different kinds of information. Well, of course, when we have so many gurus, there would be different kinds of information. And then, are we paying attention to our own body? Are we paying attention to gurus? And are we just taking information without digesting them? And how are we digesting the information? Are we saying, you guru bad? Yeah, what I'm saying is right. Then you have internal kleshas between the conscious, subconscious, unconscious, supraconscious processes. And your conscience goes through, oh my goodness, autoimmune conditions? No. Kleshas, yeah, having nightmares, not letting you sleep, and then you are no peace, yeah, between what you do and what you make available. And so I have a good night's sleep. I've been telling this since 2 years of the pandemic. I was talking about it then. Then I think people are like, how do you sleep? Yeah. So I do Nirbeeja Yoga. Yeah. And so that's my Shivratri. I have my Shivratri and my Brahma Muhurta and Vishnu's Kaustubha. Yeah. Uh, all the time. And I'm talking about Shrishti optimization. Yeah. So I'm talking about what is possible from being a humane being, where you have the whole pantheon of gods and goddesses and plants and microbes and animals and earth, water, fire, spirit, space, and universe and multiverse and what have you. Yeah. Ooh, the beauty that's there from having a body that's human. Oh my goodness. So we got lots of things to study about the human body, and you already have a human body, which means you have the textbook, which you're going to be studying through Mighty Meristem Intelligence suite of solutions. So it's like you don't know a whole lot of stuff. People even said we don't know about 90% plus of what the universe is made up of. Yay, you got lots to study, yeah? So if you're tuned in to what I'm talking about, you're getting bits of information. And my name is Bita. People have been calling me Bits. So I was kind of miffed when somebody were calling me that. Over time, I discovered there is information theory and they're talking about bits. Now I was thinking, that's kind of interesting. That got me a little disconcerted. And then over time, I stopped making bad meanings about, see, they're calling me bits, to they don't really know me. They know bits of me. Yeah. And then they don't really know Bita. And then over time, I discovered, they talk about business and then talk about what you have. And I was thinking, I only have this much. And then I discovered my name is Bita, and people have been relating me as bits. And then there's information theory. So, how little do I have, really? Yeah. And then I started teaching little by little, for example, Nirbeeja Yoga, and I discovered people can't feel their nose. And I was thinking, oh, we will just learn Nirbeeja Yoga, and then we have three other brands. Meristem Intelligence has four brands and brand values. Now I was thinking we'll just learn Nirbeeja Yoga, and then we have three other brands. So you can, there's so much that's possible from there. I just happened to discover it, and we'll all be healthy, wealthy, wise. And then I discovered they can't feel their nose. And then over time, from Nirbeeja Yoga, I started because people can't understand Nirbeeja Yoga. Over time, I came to healthier natural breathing in the hopes that slowly, slowly, we'll be able to come to feeling our nose. And then I discovered across ancestry, there's this idea of Shurpanaka, nose and ears cut off. And then punishment, people would cut off nose. And sage Shushruta, famous for starting surgery, putting the nose together. And one of the reasons why people can't feel the nose is the human morphic resonance field is affected by how many noses were cut off. Boxers punch the nose. Again. Oh, our poor nose. And then there's ears. So extremities. Everything that is standing out has at one point or the other been cut off. Yeah. So our ability to feel our body has been affected by how history has treated our own human bodies. I know, sad and gory, but we have the human body, and there's the benefits from being able to feel our own human body because it's original human intelligence. So when you're able to feel your own body, you would also be tapping into what all happened to you and your family lines across several cycles of sukha and dukha. And you're born today with AI technology available, computer, and the different sophistications available, which those people who had to get punished by having their nose and what have you cut off, yeah, to then be able to heal the fabric of time space, which means when your body heals, all those stories from where you're able to feel your body, not feel your body, how other people are affecting you, their stories improve. The fabric of time space across conscious, subconscious, unconscious, supraconscious processes also heal when you're being humane enough. If you're going to go obsessive compulsive practices so that you're going to chase away the devils, Jesus was put on the cross. Yeah. Now, Kala Dharma, there are gods and goddesses and what have you, all kinds of particles and vehicles and spirituality and well, what have you. They would get angry. Okay? Because kind of their integrity is disrupted. There is this movie called Kantara, which is talking about when things are not as harmonious as they need to be, then spirituality has been having a little moment. Kantara is talking about a phenomenon when nature goes wild. We've had 2 years of the pandemic. I was thinking that's Mother Nature gone wild. Yeah. And then there's this idea of Varaha. The movie Kantara is talking in terms of the Varaha. So, yeah. Varaha is also the boar. Wild mother. You should look up about the wild boar. His fierce mother. Yeah. And I was thinking, Varaha also lifted up earth. Matsyavatara Varaha. Yeah. Lifted up earth. Mother. What do you think is earth doing? And how is earth maintained? Equally balanced by Jupiter, sun, moon, different planets, stars, what have you. And how many times do you think Earth has been lifted up? Such that, uplift of the downtrodden? Kind of. You can't say that. Noah's Ark, Manvantara. So what phenomenon are they talking about? And then there's this idea, Jagannath being sick, Jagannath Puri, um, deity, apparently, yeah. I'm thinking they're talking about a math, big math, like intradian rhythms, circadian rhythms, intradian rhythms. One of the rhythms have been called as Jagannath. And Jagannath gets sick 15 days in a year. That's talking about Samaya, Kala Chakra. Something is not functioning as well as it needs to, because of which there is a sickness, because time is going, yeah, a little shaky, things not working. Yoga hasn't happened because time, the fabric of time space to that extent hasn't healed, because of which Jagannath, one of the rhythms, causes disease or experiences disease. And so there is cyclical processes. Is the pandemic because of this 15 days in a year? So you'd have to multiply this as, what is this 15 actually talking about? Are they in zeros, multiples, decimal points? And then that is then causing this pandemic every 2000 years, is what I heard. When I looked it up, every 2000 years, apparently there's a pandemic. And that, or thereabouts, but then maybe talking about the cycles, time, space may not have healed enough. And I discovered that during the 2 years of the pandemic, when I was doing Nirbeeja Yoga, fewer humans were getting infected. Yeah, okay. People were getting, there was one strain, one wave, and then I was doing Nirbeeja Yoga, and then fewer humans were getting, and then they announced lockdown, okay? And then I was doing Nirbeeja Yoga, and then I discovered fewer humans were getting infected, and then they would lift the lockdown. And I thought, that is okay. You notice it once, you notice that twice, and then you think, okay, once I notice is, yeah, you would dismiss the first time, kind of like, okay, yeah, you're in your own head. Second time you notice, okay, yeah. Third time, now that's not simple. You notice that twice. So I am doing something because of which this is happening. If one person, me, can do that, yeah, that should freak out. Yeah. But then I can talk about it. I even spoke about it. But they say you're in your head, you have fantastic ideas, you have grandiose ideas. But then I'm a student of the 21st century. I have a scientific way of thinking. Yeah. Something is working, something is again happening. I got to study it. I mean, I got to tell people, if one person can do this, anybody should be able to do that. I mean, if one person can lift a lockdown, have less people get diseases, yeah, then there's a science to it. And we are so many humans on the same planet. So if all of us are doing this, we should not be having WHO's global list of diseases. Is what my thinking is. I'm a clinical health facilitator. So obviously I'm going to think in terms of what's going to, and over time I came to see we have WHO's global list of diseases. In spite of several kinds of health practices, we are still working with the same human body and WHO's global list of diseases. So I've been thinking about it. Now I was thinking one human being, me, could cause less infections happening, such that lockdowns were lifting. When lockdowns lifted, economic, again, things that happen from people moving around, otherwise at home, then domestic violence and what have you, humanity cross boundaries concerns. So if one person could affect that, you have so many human beings. If all of us learn this, WHO's global list of diseases should be coming down. So shouldn't I be talking about this? Isn't this good business? That I should borrow money and then talk about this and make courses and make this available? Yeah. So I this is the sane thing. Yeah. I would be stupid and even intellectually deficient if I didn't continue. Yeah. I'm intelligent. I'm talking about meristem intelligence. So I'm standing by my brand, by my enterprise, by civilization as can become possible. And Captain Kirk in the Star Trek series says, space, the final frontier, in search of new civilization. Yeah, to go where no man has been before. Of course, no man has been before, and I'm a woman. Yeah, so that's kind of, well, all punchlines. But the thing is, we still have 100% of the way to go. But I'm continuing to do Nirbeeja Yoga, and I'm to teach this by live Almighty Earth. what have you. Universe also would like me to continue because we would like to now live in life in the multiverse. If one human being can cause infections to less humans to be infected, we can now turn around stuff like how Earth is um, created human beings. We can turn around. So there's particle physics involved. So how I'm interacting with quantum, I'm detangling quantum effects and many, many things. And that is also what happened, which has not been resolved since the Big Bang. There are different layers of, there's a hard problem of consciousness. So today, this morning, I noticed this influence from a neighbor doing their practices and how I was affected. So what we don't know about, yeah, until we are aware of, don't do that or do it differently, we don't know what we are at the effect of. But when we are mindful, we would also be appreciative of how other people are affected by what you're doing. And then slowly, slowly, you work with the fabric of time space because we are all related. It's like strings. A fabric has threads. So, how are the threads all affected? And how we are not really holding on to strings, but when we are mindful, we notice how humanity cross boundaries works. How when we are doing well, such that others are also doing well, a lot becomes possible. Us, people around us, future generations, their generations, and their generations. What we do with the technology we have available, with the food habits we have, with our everyday ways of maintaining our sukha and dukkha challenges, slowly becomes finer. And then what becomes possible is a lot more people are alive, yeah, and we are having less of this kantara kind of an effect, yeah, pandemics not happening anytime soon because the particles and vehicles, macro particles, microcosm and macrocosm. We feel we are tiny, tiny. Kantara is like macrocosm. Yeah, the Jagannath. We are talking about deities, and we're talking about macrocosm, macro particles. Okay, they have their own taragati. Like times at which they go through their cyclical processes, circadian rhythms. Class. Okay, not class. Taragati. Um, according to that type, the time that they move according to that type. So, heart, big mass, functions at its own pace. Heart cell, tiny mass, functions at its own pace. And the tiny mass, cell, and heart, they need to function together. Otherwise, it would be arrhythmia. When some cells of the heart is functioning at one pace, the heart is functioning at a different pace, that will be defibrillation, yeah? Fibrillation of different thing, yeah. And then you'll have to defibrillate. Okay, some people wearing pacemaker and all that, you have a little idea of what may be going a little off, yeah? So, and then you would need your heart and lungs functioning together. And lungs also have tiny little cells. Yeah. And then lungs and diaphragm and liver and the whole body, cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and then not just our body. We are related to our parents. We are related to our neighbors. We are related to earth, water, fire, spirit, space, universe, and multiverse. And how do you manage all of this so much of information? Yeah, we are already dealing with information overwhelm. Okay. It's called awareness, mindfulness, present moment appreciation. Give us an exercise. All right. I can hear you, right? An exercise would be paying attention to your skin of your palms, of your hands. Okay, palms are in the hands. Okay. And then you have soles of your feet. Yeah, they're called soles, and hands have palms. Okay. All right. So you see labels, names. Okay. One thing that would be easy would for you to contact me. I will send you the link, or rather, I have this link, learn.dynamicstillnesses.com. 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 Okay. So there I'm putting up courses. Okay. So there is one course which is already available, which is called Human 101 Foundation Course. So from there, a little bit of you get the basics of it, some bit of it. And then from there, slowly, slowly, in a systematic manner, you'll be able to learn this, what I'm making available. So when you're more studying that material, you will be coming to a better place in how you are being mindful in different spheres. So I've been trying to teach this now. Yeah. There's at least 5 subjects. Yeah. But one of them is I call writing my way. And that basically begins from the yoga concept of Nama Smarana Yoga. Okay? You have your name, you have your parents' names, you have your neighborhood name, like the place where you live, you have your country's name. You get the idea. We have lots of titles. You're a boss versus security guard versus, so you have your job titles, you have your relationship titles, you have your objects, different things, phone, for example, chair. You got lots of names. Nama. Yeah, like names. When you don't think about names well enough, what comes out of your mouth are also words. You may not be thinking enough about the words you speak or of the words you listen to. And you may be making your own meanings while you have a suboptimal relationship with these names. Entanglement, emotional, what have you, spiritual, intellectual entanglements also come from your suboptimal relationship with one or more names. When you detangle the kleshas or clashes between these names or your relationship with even one name, for example, your own name, when you de traumatize, heal your relationship with one or more of these names, there is a yoga that becomes possible. A harmony from the different names that you already have in your life as a wealth. And you have lots of names. Just look around you, look at your own name, your relationship names. You are born with lots of names. And you also, whether or not you went to school, you are talking because somebody or the other gave you certain words, and they are all names. Is a name, is a name, the is a name. They are all representing, talking about certain specific aspects. You may call them grammar, but they're basically the makes available what is or with or but does not make available. They each have their own place in the whole scheme of things. So this is a different kind of an algebra. Algebra, you see X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Here you're having languages, many kinds of languages. And every language have a lot of names, words, names, put together in sentences, strings, what have you, paragraphs, and you have stories about what these names are and how they're related and what they do to your life. Somebody called you stupid, and then you're tangled with this person called me stupid, and your relationship with stupid is bad. And so that person called me a bad name. If your relationship with stupid is not bad, then when somebody calls you stupid, you would be happy because now your relationship with stupid has gotten through a rehabilitation. So even if somebody pelts stupid at you, what that means to you is not what they intended to be. So from rehabilitating names, I've come with mais. Yeah, it's the universal language of love or universal language of life. From you being able to see these different sounds and how these sounds are put together, no matter who calls you what, there's a way to rehabilitate those words such that they all become lovely. And your entanglement with people, your difficulties with somebody called you this, there are good names, bad names, somebody calls you a dog and you start reacting. Mais has a way to turn around that so that no matter which language, there's a sound to it. You can convert it into English, let's just say, or into mais. And then it becomes a lovely language. No matter what they say, you are having a good life and your story is improving, no matter what they call you. And your relationship with them, with words, with life, with how things are, keeps on getting better. So it's a universal language of love or life. So you say intelligent. That's also because when we don't see things in perspective, everything is a problem. But when you see things in perspective, math has lots of problems. When you solve the problems, you have solutions. So it's a math of faith. Yeah. So it's a different kind of a yoga. Yeah. This is what yoga makes available. So do join me on learn.dynamicstillnesses.com. There's a community. Click the button. You would be part of the community. There's a community page. We'll have chats. And then there are ways by which you can also have benefits from there. For example, courses, or you can sign up for Human 101 foundation course, and more coming up. I'll let you know. Yeah. So I hope this live today has been of value to you. And this brings you a certain perspective, paradigm of thinking, which may not otherwise be available because I cooked this fresh in Mighty Kitchen. You know, a human body, like a production house kitchen. What we cook up is also stories. What comes out of our mouth is also what's been cooking inside our bodies. So I have Mighty Kitchen because, well, Mighty Baby. Yeah, we're all very powerful people. Yeah, we can also write stories that sing doomsday. Yeah. So build rockets to fly up to Mars and moon. Yeah. So we are quite mighty people. Yeah. We can even throw tantrums. So if we can do that, we can also make life better from the same material that other humans also have. Yeah. The same human body. And then the kind of stories that you have made up and how your body is looking like from the kind of stories you live by. Start writing in a journal. You would be putting down names one after the other. They'd be called words. But start putting down those words and start seeing them as names, labels. And you have a relationship with each of them, or you like some words, you don't like some words. And accordingly will be the story you write. Yeah. You would have a little hesitation to write certain words. So you'll slowly discover how your life is entangled by which words you like, which words you don't like, and then the quality of your stories. Yeah. You want to have fluidity, movement in your life? Write. Write. If you don't know how to write, go to school and learn it. There are online classes, schools available. It's not very difficult. Listen to movies, listen to songs. They're all in the language that you'd like to learn. But write. Writing is where the beauty begins. Yeah. Where you begin to author your life in a better story. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this has been of value to you. Good day.